It's on.
I'm going to pick something from Todd's video. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. Fantastic. I am going to kick us off into our next section of the conference today. This is our panel discussion. We have some really amazing panelists and amazing moderators. You don't need to hear from me. I'm going to pass it over to you, Petrov.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ryan. And I just want to say, first of all, that it's an honor and a privilege to be in the room here with everyone today. Not only to hear from Todd, who, can we give another round of applause for this? But also to be able to be joined by the wonderful group we have who will be serving as our panel here this afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Pete Petrov, and when I say this so truthfully, I'm proud to serve as the Director of Education and Studies for Tutors. And along with me moderating the panel today, we have Brenda Maria, who is our Senior Lead Academic Service Manager. So we are excited to bring you on. To begin here with the panel, I do want to say that we're fortunate because if we added up, and I'm not calling anyone else, but if we added up the years of educational experience that this panel has, it would blow your mind. So we're very fortunate today to hear their insights and thoughts, and we're going to start by having each panelist briefly introduce themselves. And we're going to start with Dr. Dominica Scibetta.
Hi, good morning. I was joking, this is giving very school board meeting. So bear with us. But good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm really excited to be here. I live in Long Beach, so it wasn't too long of a commute, thank God. Yeah, a little bit about myself. So again, my name is Dominica. I was actually born in Korea to a single mom and pretty dire straits. And so I was kind of sent over to the US and I was raised here in New York, or not here in New York, raised here in the States in New York. I never thought that education was going to be a career, and I think I'll expand on that a little bit like later in the panel. But it was my work with Veterans Affairs and military connected families in the mid-2000s when the post 9/11 GI Bill came out that really inspired me to do this work as a lifelong career. And so that really catapulted me into really building holistic centers around special populations. And so that led me into my TRIO work, that led me into CalSOAP, which is a state level grant, and now I work for GEAR, which is a federal level grant. And so really my work has almost worked backwards. I started working with adults and then now I work with little middle schoolers and middle school districts. But all of that to say is, yeah, I am super passionate though. My main thing, if you're asking my favorite thing about my job, is to learn from emerging professionals. So folks that are thinking about this as a career, folks who are frontline, working directly with students. I think sometimes as you move up in education, you get a little farther removed from the student experience. And so connecting with folks that are in the classroom doing the work, you really are the heart of what we do. And so it's just an honor and a privilege to really be here this afternoon. And hopefully we'll be able to learn from each other.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dominica. Next we have Dr. Stephanie Paramore Jones.
Hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be here. I'm Dr. Stephanie Paramore Jones. Please call me Stephanie. I started working with Study Smart Tutors about 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm a professional development facilitator. And what that means is I work with the staff. Many of you are tutors, but I work with the staff that work with the that are in the offices with the students, or in the offices running the programs that many of you also support. In addition to Study Smart Tutors, I teach online part-time. I've also been a higher ed administrator in continuing education for adults. I worked as a career counselor. I scooped ice cream when I was in college. But my favorite and most passionate work that I've ever done was working for a TRIO program as an Upward Bound counselor and coordinator. That work still touches me to this day. I still see students on LinkedIn that I know finished high school, went on to maybe even 2-year college, also went to college, now are working in their careers and professions. And I can't say that I take credit for that work, but I know the programs and the tutoring and the support that our programs and our work does helped get them there, also with their own hard work. So I just want to say thank you all for the work that you do. I know you're passionate, as I am, and I want to learn from you as well as we gather today and share our stories, our strengths, and our challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Next up, we have Victor Rojas.
Good morning, buenos dias. I wanted to see what picture was up there. I'm like, I shaved for you all just to fit in, look a little younger. Good morning, buenos dias. So let me start off with my connection to Study Smart, because now I'm a university administrator, kind of C-suite as they call it. So you're like, what is this guy doing here? My passion, my connection, much like Stephanie's, is during my time as director of Upward Bound, and having worked with Jack and Laura. And I actually think, where's Jordan at? He just stepped out. I think Jordan was kind of first day on the job, and he ended up working with me, poor guy. But look at him now. But happy to be here, happy to share some insights, and just share with you that what you do is super, super impactful, but we'll get into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Next up, we have Nora Morales.
Good morning. My name is Nora Morales. I am an instructional coach with LAUSD. I've been with LAUSD for 25 years. I started off as a TA with LAUSD. I am a product of LAUSD. Raymond Avenue, John Muir Middle School, and Manual Arts High School. So South Central is my heart. I just love teaching, and I love learning as well.
Thank you so much, Nora. And next, we have Lisa Saldivar.
Good morning, everybody. Lisa Saldivar from ETO, LAUSD, and she won't toot her own horn, but I've had the pleasure of working alongside Nora for, almost 25 years. I've been in LAU for 25 years as well, but I've known her for about 15, and if you're want to know anything about mathematics education, this is the person to speak to. Absolutely. So just a little bit about myself. As I mentioned, I've been in LAUSD 25 years, but I've known that I've wanted to be a teacher for much longer than that. When I was young, I used to line up my sister and all my stuffed animals and would teach. On Sunday after Sunday school, we'd come home, and that's what we did all day on Sunday. And it was just, from then, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I have been a teacher, an assistant principal, a principal at multiple schools, and now I have the great pleasure of working for the Educational Transformation Office in LA Unified as the Elementary Instructional Director, and I get to support our wonderful coordinators and coaches who are in our schools every single day, our most vulnerable populations in our most marginalized communities. So just happy to be here with you all today. I want to thank Study Smart for the partnership, because our students deserve the absolute best, and I appreciate that Study Smart comes with their best every single day. So looking forward to this time together.
Thank you. Next up, we have Maisha Walker-Deen.
Good morning. I'm Maisha Walker-Deen. I am from San Pedro, right across the way, and I have been an educator for over 20 years. I work with LAUSD. I'm at Dorsey High School. I'm a community school coordinator. And for the past 4 years, we've been working with Study Smart Tutors, and I am amazed looking around the room, because it was a small company when we started out, and now, look at you. Look how you've grown. So I am dedicated to education, and I became an English teacher based on being a peer advisor in college, seeing all of my peers testing into like remedial English and math. And I just decided, let me go into high school and see what's going on and see how I can support. So here I am.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maisha. And Tom, you know who you are. Is there anything you want to add about the group? I know we got to know who you are already. You're good? All right. Thank you. And for those of you who are on our panel, you didn't realize this, but we're going to jump in pretty deep, pretty quick. So this first question I would like every panelist to answer. So we'll just start with the minimum first. I would love if you could share a personal story of when a strategy, or in line with our conference, a strengths-based approach made a significant impact on yourself, a fellow educator, students, and/or a school or community.
I'm not going to be the first one every time, but okay. I was going to go for a professional example, but I think I'll speak more about my personal experience. I think someone had talked about the types of expectations we place on students. It's kind of ironic I said that I work in education because I had a very non-traditional educational upbringing. I went to a really low resource school in New York. I think only 6 of us ended up graduating high school. I finished my last year independent study just to kind of get through the credits, but I ended up going to a large 4-year university, Stony Brook, which is kind of like the SUNY system, the UCLA system, or the UP system. And so, although I was always a pretty good student and I kind of navigated how to get through high school on my own, college was the first time where expectations were set high. It's a pretty large school. I think my freshman, like Psych 101 class was like 600 kids. And it was the first time where everyone was competing at this high level. The faculty held us at a high level. And even as first years, they really expected us to meet those expectations. And I thrived in that environment. So the strengths-based approach, I think what the key to it is a faculty saw me and that whole crowd, knew that I had the potential, pulled me aside and said, you can do this. This is how we're going to get you there. And here are all the other opportunities that I want to make sure that you take advantage of while you're here at this university. I had never had an adult do that before. I never really knew that that's what adults did for students or for kids. And so that completely transformed my entire approach to learning, to what an educator's role is really there for. And the power of it, like I said, I think someone had mentioned in Q&A, we often shy away from setting high bars because we don't want students to feel like they're going to fail, or we're setting them up somehow, or it's a lot of work on our part to keep them accountable. But that alone, I think, like I said, really transformed my idea of what I was capable of, and it's something that I think I try and carry on into my professional career now as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to share a brief story. Again, you know, my favorite work was with Trio. I'm going to share a story about a young man named Mario. When I met him, he was, I think, in 9th or 10th grade, this was several years ago, and I was a counselor for the program. And part of my role as a counselor was to go to my high schools, meet with students, check in with them, build that connection, continue to help encourage them to finish their A through G requirements so they could go to college. That's the goal of Trio, that's the goal of Upward Bound. So as I met with the student over time, he started to express concerns about the classes he was taking. And he said, teacher or counselor, I'm bored. These classes are too easy for me. So that red flag went off for me, and I said, well, what's going on here? So, and looking at his transcripts, I noticed that he was in all special ed classes, essentially. And that was a concern for me, because leaning into his strengths that I could see, he was committed to our program. He was showing up every Saturday. He was an inquisitive student, always asking questions. He was engaged. And also what really indicated that I needed to step in and help out. He was advocating for himself. He was saying, I'm asking for help. I need help here. So in my young wisdom and sort of like, let's get this done style, I started to meet with his counselors at the high school, and I said, hey, I have concerns. What's happening here? He's bored, he's doing well in these classes, but they're not challenging him, and he's asking for help. What can we do? So nothing changes overnight, but over time, with consistency and with persistence, I was able to move him from these special ed courses into general classes. And guess what? He did very well. He continued to show up. He got good grades. And the bottom line is he finished high school. He went on to college. He wanted to pursue a career in public administration, law enforcement. And last I heard, he had gone through the academy and he was doing well. So the power of our students lies within them, but we are there to serve as a catalyst to make sure that the changes that need to happen and the attention that the students need actually takes place. So this moral of the story is, if you see students and they're struggling or they're asking for help, you know, in collaboration with your teams and your teachers and your counselors, build a network of support, so that if a student is asking for help and in classes that are maybe not the right fit for them, maybe if it works and it's the right fit, they can transition and go on and continue to feel support in the life that they have or the goals that they have set for themselves.
Wonderful, thank you, Stephanie. Victor?
Thanks, Pete. I'll go with a personal story. So there's a reason. I don't know if most of you can see it, but my shirt says Boyle Heights. right? So if any of you know LA, Boyle Heights is part of East LA. There's projects there. I'm a kid from the projects, and statistically, I'm not supposed to be here because I grew up in the 90s, and we actually had the most murders per capita in the country in the projects where I grew up. So by definition, statistically, I'm an anomaly. And so I saw that as a detriment growing up. And it took a mentor to point something out to me. It's like, be proud of where you're from. It gives you strength. It defines you. But it defines you in a good way. It gives you superpowers. My superpower is persistence. If you tell me no, watch me do it. Watch me. Right? You just gave me extra motivation. Right? So this mentor also said, you know what you see as a deficit, me as an outsider, I see it as strength because I probably wouldn't have made it if I was you. So it just helped me switch my mindset, the way in which I perceive the world, the lens that I use to view things. And that's actually what I use professionally now, since that day going forward. So when I was working with students directly, that's what I preached, right? Use your superpowers. What are your superpowers? We all have them. So I'll stop there, Pete.
Wonderful. Thank you, Victor. Nora?
Yes. I'm going to take on with that superpower. I think my superpower is perseverance and grit, right? I persevere and I think outside of the box every day. And sometimes I'm like, okay, Nora, you have to, if it's not, let it rest for a minute and continue thinking outside of the box. And that's when I get the most creative. My story for personal story of impact is I'm very proud to be a product of a California distinguished school in South Central. In 2010, it was 5 years that we worked at 122nd Street School with a strong leader, Dr. Robin Benton. And when she came, her leadership, I was a coach. We had a literacy coach, an ELD coach, and I was the math coach. And with her leadership, we met as a community of educators every week. 1 week was for math, 1 week for ELA, 1 week for ELD, very strategic. And we came as teachers, as community by grade level, and we talked about challenges and strengths that we were having in our classrooms. Not that we all had the answers, but we leaned on each other for the answers. And when they leaned on me as their math coach and I didn't have the answer, I leaned on resources for the answers. I would Google, I would ask questions, I would go buy books. I have so many math books that I still have to continue reading. It's just insane that there's no time for enough reading. But I was so proud when our school became California Distinguished School in a South Central area school. So after leaving 122nd, I knew that there is no magic pill. Nothing is magical. It's about grit and perseverance and building a network of community with the people you work with. And knowing that some folks have strengths and some folks have challenges, but if we continue to move and we have our eye on the target, that is academic success for the students, that we could ultimately pull everyone together and reach those goals for our students to persevere and achieve their potential.
Awesome. Thank you, Nora. Lisa?
Okay. It's hard to follow all these things. I want to just build off a little bit of what Victor and Nora spoke about. I think when I think about the communities that we serve, that probably all of us serve, I think about the fact that, for me, I don't really, I will say marginalized communities, we'll say vulnerable communities, but to me, they're communities. And when I think about, that we as a society and as a country have not given these communities what they need and deserve. But when you look at the community of people who are there, they are not marginalized. They come with strength and beauty and a hustle, just as Victor said, that I have never seen before. I always joke that I was very fortunate and that I had roses and unicorns growing up, right? No, we were not wealthy, but we had enough, and I didn't have to hustle in the way that I see the students that we serve hustle. And I appreciate that. And my husband is a hustler, you know, and I think about what Victor just shared about his upbringing, and I thought, wow, that's so similar to my husband, who is fine. And I tell teachers all the time, who they are today, who our students are today, having this trouble with you in your classrooms is not who they're going to be in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. They're going to surpass any expectations that you may have had for them. They will do better and be better. And for those, we have a responsibility to lean into them, to support them, and to really just honor and just really celebrate who they are. And so I come to you, you know, as someone who just really is in awe of our community. And when we look at what their strengths are, I want us to really think about them not as like strengths and deficits, but just that they are students who deserve. And so we just want to lean into that. And I think if we do that, and I think someone mentioned it as well, that we say it, right? That we stamp it, that we name it. I see you, I see your hustle, because those are the things, just like Victor said, he remembers that, he uses that today. I'm gonna say 10 years later, right, Victor?
Yeah.
10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later. But if we stamp it for kids and recognize that hustle, recognize that grit, that perseverance that Nora talked about, they'll be able to use that in the future.
Thank you, Lisa. Maisha?
I'm going to tell the story of a kid. When I was a Read 180 teacher back in 2008, we had standardized testing. There was also a California High School exit exam. I was teaching at Locke High School. And Achille came in, and there was a question of whether or not he was literate. And so we started with Post-it notes, just back and forth, just to see if he had writing ability. Because on the test that he took, he scored a 0. So there was no determination of what his reading level was. But he had the grit, he had the drive, he had the motivation. He showed up for all of the tutorings, he showed up for all the classes. He wanted to learn, he wanted to write letters to his father. I won't tell you where he was. That's where he was. So Achille became a 3rd grade reader by the time we left this semester. That growth was not measured on any standardized test. That growth did not show up anywhere, but he knew it and we celebrated. And that shifted my whole philosophy of teaching. Like, if I'm teaching for students to pass this test, y'all remember Casey? If I'm teaching students to pass this test or meet this benchmark, then we're not focused on growth. And so he taught me to shift my thinking and focus on growth and to celebrate that.
Thank you, Maisha. Todd?
I'll go to my area as far as building the next generation of leaders that are going into different communities, underserved communities. I work with UC Berkeley School of Education. I'm a facilitator, so I work with the Principal Leadership Institute. And so my job is making sure that I support principals going into most challenging districts and schools looking at curriculum instruction, climate culture, developing relationships, and retaining teachers. And so for me, that's really important because when we talk about the educational system, that we have to build for future leaders. So we have to equip them with the necessary tools that we can be successful. Some of you have taken method courses in your teaching classes. And you take those method courses, but then you actually get out to the school site and you experience some things you're thinking will never come in this method class. And so what I want to make sure that I do is continue to work to build the next leaders. And I've been very fortunate. I tell any assistant principal that works under me, if you work under me, in 2 or 3 years, we'll be a principal. Because I'm guiding them in the right direction. I've been very fortunate that I've had about 19 assistant principals become principals because I'm really making sure they have the strategy, the techniques, the experiences to help move the next generation.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your personal and professional stories of how we all, ended up here sitting together. I think my question is for some of the tutors who are sitting down here, looking to you as inspiration. I definitely have seen some of our tutors become teachers. Shout out to one of them that was here. Jason was a tutor and he was a teacher. And I wanted to open this question up specifically to Lisa and Maisha. If you can share a little bit about your road, and Nora, I'm sure this applies to you too, but how you ended up, transitioning out of the classroom, because I think you do amazing work in the classroom, but I definitely want to open it up, and I think anyone here can talk a little bit more about that, of how you ended up where you are today. I know the work that you do in the classroom is important, but there's also work outside of the classroom that is in.
Well, let me say, I had to be convinced, coerced, and encouraged to leave the classroom, because I know that's where the magic is, directly working with the students. And as an English teacher, we are privy to so much, through journaling and through reflection. So we're able to really develop close relationships with students. However, going to different conferences and looking around the room, I was seeing that there were people who may have been uninformed making decisions about the students and the children in my community who were disconnected. Regardless of how they looked or appeared, they were just disconnected because they didn't have an understanding of the beauty and the strengths of who our virgins and our babies, our students are. So I had to take that step. And the other part of that step is to be a mentor for other teachers, to be an encourager for other teachers, because it can be very challenging to keep that motivation and keep going. So everyone needs a someone. And so I came out of the classroom to do that. And, being a coordinator, working in programs and different partnerships, I just have a different view. I have a different viewpoint of what works and what doesn't work. And I can advocate on another level. I can advocate for the adults. I can advocate for the newer teachers. I can advocate for the support. And so it was important to come out of the classroom.
I would say, for me, it was really about following, cheesy, but following your passions, right? And so, as I mentioned, I started teaching when I was like 7 years old. But then actually, after high school and then into college, I started as a tutor. I was a tutor first. And I tutored in different companies, different groups, in different arenas, right? When I went to college, went to school in Palo Alto and went to East Palo Alto to tutor, and really found just a deep love for working with students, in urban settings. And I really, as I got back into the class, but a kind of fun story. I became a teacher really because of driving school, and I was interesting, but I got a ticket and went to driving school. And I was tutoring, and I met a principal. And I met a principal who was a principal in South LA, and she said, I don't have any openings, but call my specialist, right? So call my specialist for LA Unified. And I called him, and he told me about a program, the district intern program. For those of you who are not, LA Unified still exists today. And I got that connection through going to driving school. And so I really enjoyed my time in the classroom. But what I found when I was in the classroom was that I really enjoyed mathematics education. I just really enjoyed and had a passion for math. And so my first step outside the classroom was being a math coach. And that's how Nora and I sort of got to know each other. So when I say, follow your passions, think about what's important to you, what inspires you every day. For me, it was, I taught 4th and 5th grade. I also taught math in middle school and high school. And I saw from 4th grade all the way up until 12th grade, students who hated math, who didn't think they were good at math, who really felt like they couldn't be successful and that they could do other things. And I just really wanted to take the opportunity to show them that that is not true and that they can do it. And so I was a mathematics coach for quite some time. And then sort of like Maisha said, you start thinking about, well, what else can I do? Who else can I support? How else can I make a mark and really support students? And so for me, you know, my kind of jump into administration started at that point. And today, you know, now that I work with the Educational Transformation Office, it's been, it was a challenge for me because you're stepping away, you get further and further away from school sites. But we're lucky in ETO that every day we're in school sites. Every day it's important that we're in school side by side with teachers and principals. And so just remember what's important to you. Think about making those connections, right? Thinking about what your passion is, because as Mr. Irving said, you know, Todd said, this can be grueling work. You have to keep that balance, but it's important work. It's necessary work, and you just need to make sure that you have that passion for it, because you can't turn it off. Just like Todd said, you even as much as you want to, right? I'd say Saturday is my day I take off, but look where I am right now, right? So right now it's okay. No, it's okay, and I'm so happy to be here, right? And so I just think we just, you know, think about what you want and who you want to affect, and just know that no matter whether you're in the classroom or you step out, you can really make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nora, I'm actually going to switch up for you real quick, if that's okay. I'm going to put you on the spot. With so many tutors here, I know some of them have, I know our team, especially me, have had the privilege to watch you in front of students and really showcase how a classroom should be run. So I would love if you could share with the group a few tips, a few effective strategies that you find to be useful for students who may be resistant to learning or struggling with motivation.
Okay,
I put you on the spot.
Yes.
That's a hard one.
that's okay. As a math coach, I'm an instructional coach, but my strength is math, so I'm learning as well ELA with our new curriculum. But being in the classroom on a daily basis, I think that's where my heart is, and I appreciate this position that I'm in, because as a leader, I'm still in those classrooms working side by side with teachers, with the students that are in front of them. And it is real. We have challenges in those classrooms. I've been videotaped where I tell the children, my favorite call and response is when I say math, you say rocks, and I'll say it 3 times because I want the students' attention to look at me, right? And then I hear on the side, sucks. But you know what? I don't let that interrupt my instruction. I go like this, and I say, I heard it, and I'm gonna address it later. So I don't stop my instruction just because a child has misbehaved or showing some kind of disruptive behavior. I know that that child needs attention. There is a root cause for that particular response, right? And I will get to it at a time when I need to get to it, but I still need to continue with instructing my students. Sometimes I have students as well that oh, my pet peeve is the children have their hoodie and are slouching on the table. And as soon as I go in those classrooms, I'm like, good morning, boys and girls. I really love to see your faces. And I make sure that I make eye contact with those students. And I'll say, can you guys please take your hoodies off, right? And some of them are a little bit more resistant than others. So then I walk a little bit to proximity and I'll say, hey, come on, Victor, can you please take your hoodie off, right? So it's about building those relationships, not forcing anything on anyone, but building those relationships. The child might not take that hoodie off at that time as well, right? So I continue with an instruction, and then when I'm circulating the room to confer with students, then I go, I have those little one-on-one conversations and say, can you please take the hoodie off? And that's where I see a little bit more of, okay, let me give into what Ms. Morales is asking me, but then we're talking about the task that is at hand, right? So once the children know, and in particular, there's a case that I remember my best friend Sylvia Diaz. She is a teacher from 122nd Street School, and I've been out of that school for 15 years already. And she says, Nora, I will never forget when you went into my classroom and you said, Raylan was talking and being disruptive. And I said, Raylan, I love you. I love how you're using that beautiful voice, but can you please pay attention right now to me? And he stopped right then and there. And she says she has used that technique over and over, and it works. And sometimes with children, I'll just go like this, Rodrigo. And then that little boy is just like hovering over what Ms. Morales is saying, because they know I care. So building those relationships, what do they say? Contact, relationships before, what's that saying? Curriculum? Yes, curriculum is important, but relationships are important as well. You will not get to a child's heart if you're trying to hammer just standards. I have to hold those hand in hand together.
Thank you so much.
This question right here is for Dr. Scibetta and Dr. Jones. A lot of us here are not just tutors, as you mentioned, facilitators, but also mentors. I think we would love to hear some of the ways that we can continue supporting beyond the academics, right? What are the programs that you all have worked with? What do you see as, what makes a tutor successful and supporting academically in the classroom, but also we've heard stories about, recently I went to a school where one of the students who was initially homeschooled was having a little bit of a hard time being in the classroom, but with the support of two of our tutors, he mentioned he found best friends and that it was an easier transition to be in the classroom. What have you seen? What are strategies that you have seen work with some of the tutors that you've seen come through your programs?
All right, so I would say that as far as the role of a tutor, it's again a really powerful tool and role that you play. You connect with the students. You're there, you see them every day, you get to know them. And I think Mr. Irving said it really well when it's building that connection with them first, finding out what they like, finding out what their interests are, finding out what their hobbies are, and maybe they're still exploring those things, making some connections with those interests. When I was the director of TRIO, I know that our students struggled in math, as did I when I was in school, and I said to my instructor, I had instructors that taught on our Saturdays, I said, help me make math fun, connected to things they love. If they like music, there's math in music, right? There's structure, there's notes, if they like, we would go, every now and then we'd go to some amusement park. I said, okay, there's math in roller coasters, there's physics, find a way to connect math to every single thing we're learning about. So I would encourage all of you to do the same, find a way to connect to things that the students are into. Give them that space to have some fun. I also think that, I think someone also shared, it doesn't have to always be serious all the time. We need structure, we need to have some discipline, but we can let loose a little bit. The other thing I would say is if you feel comfortable, share a little bit of your journey. Humanize yourself to them. We're not their friends, we're not their best friends, but we are human, and it's sometimes helpful for a student to hear your story, to hear your journey, if you're comfortable sharing that with them. They know that sometimes some students think, oh, you're perfect, you never messed up. No, honey, I've made plenty of mistakes. And I will own those mistakes and I'll learn from them, and you will too. So if you can connect with them on a human level, on a person-to-person level, on an interest level, whatever you feel comfortable with, that sometimes helps them see, you know what? I don't have to be perfect. I just have to figure out my path and continue forward when I make a mistake and keep learning and growing. So that's some suggestions I've made.
Okay, maybe I'll offer a little bit of a different perspective. Anyone that's worked in a school, which we all have, it's a highly complex environment for everyone. For the student that's coming there every day, for the professionals that are there every day, for all, it's incredible the amount of effort that goes into what a school function does. So I would say the most effective tutors that I've seen kind of move through that role and then expand into this field as a lifelong career is understanding that, number one. And what I mean by that is connecting also. You're there to support your teachers and supporting the students in their learning, but you're also there, right, with professionals as well. And so I think being able to connect with them also, kind of understanding what they need, filling in some of those gaps, understanding the priorities of the school is also really important. So for us, yes, our tutors arrive there and they maybe sometimes feel, maybe they have a limited amount of power or they have a limited amount of decision making, but you do play an important role in the daily lives of these students and the professionals that are there working alongside you. And so I would really encourage you to foster some of those connections with the other folks that are there doing their work, because that helps you mentor in a way that's more holistic, right? You're not just there supporting algebra, but you're also there understanding what the counselors are doing. If you're at a community school, you know who to go to if a student needs, I don't know, basic needs, right? And so although you might not have direct decision making over what happens to that student outside of the class, you really become, because you've built that connection that Stephanie was mentioning, you become sort of that portal to all the other resources and all the other adults that are on campus. And I think that's really important, especially because you do have a temporary time with them, like if we're real, right? But they're going to continue through this educational journey. And so one of the things, like I said, is you being able to kind of open their eyes to all these other people that are there on their side and encouraging them too. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stephanie, Dominica. And we're going to end the questions from Brenda and I with one more before we open it up to questions from the audience. I always like to end a session like this asking the question of, what is your why? And I think it's important in a room with several audience members beginning their journey as an educator. So Todd, we'll start down on your end, and I know you touched on this a little bit, and we'll come all the way back down. I'd like everyone to answer, what is your why? Why do you do what you do each and every day?
The reason why I do what I do, I want to make sure that every single student gets an educational opportunity at excellence. I grew up in Long Beach, on the east side, between Bourne, Anaheim, and PCH. And I can remember growing up, the middle school that I was supposed to go to was either Washington or Franklin. When my mother and father sent me there, they sent me to Hill and go school to get a quality education. And so for me, I think it shouldn't matter where you live, your zip code, area code, that every school should have a good quality education. So my why is making sure that I go into neighborhoods where people think students won't get a good quality education to make sure they get a good quality education.
Thank you, Todd. Maisha?
My why is because every year I learn so much from the students, from the younger teachers. The youth are constantly growing and evolving, and as I'm growing and evolving, I'm learning from them. So it's interactive, it's interchangeable, it's back and forth. It's not one way. I'm not teaching them only, I'm learning them. And so I look forward to that because each and every one of them is a gem and a jewel. And as a high school teacher, it's kind of like you don't know what essay or what moment their brilliance is just going to pop out. So I'm just kind of mining for that, looking for that, waiting for that. That's the why.
Thank you, Maisha. Lisa?
I think when I think about our students, I think about the fact that no child has done anything to deserve or not deserve the best opportunities, right? And that's how I feel about it, that it's opportunities, they're choices. I want our students to have choices. When I think about those who have, I don't think that they've done anything special either to have what they have. Some folks have, I mean, some have, but some of it's luck or it's chance, or you're born into a certain, level of socioeconomic status. There's no reason why all of our students shouldn't have that if that's what they want. And so for me, it's about choices and giving our students choices, and all students deserve choices.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Nora?
I believe my why is I see myself in those students. I was a product of LAUSD, right? And I know that the children have the potential, and sometimes teachers don't know how to reach those potentials in the role that I'm in as a coach, right? So therefore, I have to provide support to teachers to open up, to provide that potential for students, because these are our children that are going to be citizens of the world. I'm getting older, they're going to be the Nora Morales, the Lisas, the Todds, right, in 15, 20 years, right? So I want to make sure that they have kindness and love, and they believe in themselves, and that they are humans to each other. So I think that in coaching the teachers, I'm providing an opportunity for our children to be citizens and potential citizens of the world, and to make the decisions that they want to make in life based on their needs.
Fantastic, thank you, Nora. Victor?
I can provide you a dissertation of what my whys are. But really, my why is because not only are they me, are students me, they look like me, they sound like me, they grew up like me, they were poor like me, they were on food stamps like me. All of the me's, they are me. And someone provided an opportunity, created an opportunity for me to get ahead. And again, who would have said a kid from the projects is a vice president at a 4-year institution? No one. Someone paved that path for me. It is my responsibility to pave the path for all those to come.
Yeah, thank you so much. My why, I really connect and resonate with all of my colleagues on the panel. I would speak to, I just think that every student needs adults, including their parents and outside of their parents, who believes in them. I think like the quote said, that's not gonna give up on them, and sees something in them, sees things that they don't see in themselves or don't know about themselves. And so with our support and love, I think I can use the word love, like we love our students and who they are and who they're becoming. I just think that every student needs to have that experience. And with all of you out there, as we're growing, Study Smart Tutors, putting all that out there into the world is nothing but a good thing, from my perspective. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, basically everything. And I think despite it all, I still believe in education, particularly public education. And I think it's important that we say that it is still a powerful, powerful mechanism to afford our students all of the opportunities and connections they need to move beyond where they are right now. That belief and that hope fuels my effort and my tenacity to not give up on the systems also, and trying to figure out better ways that we can do better for the professionals that are at the schools and the students and the families as well. So I think that hope or that belief in the power, like I said, particularly public ed, is what continues, fueling my life.
Absolutely amazing, yeah. We're not quite done with the panel yet, but can we give them a round of applause for all of the responses? Please, thank you to all of you here. For those in attendance, please do feel free to scan the QR code if you have a question from anyone on the panel. A few have already come through. So I'll take that first one that is already in Mentimeter. And if there's one panelist who wants to answer this one, feel free. And I think this is very relevant to what the group will with. The question came in, how do you deal sometimes with difficult coworkers, or if you're a tutor, with a difficult teacher in the classroom to work with? And Nora, I see your brain's already thinking. So I don't know if you want to take this, but this is from one of our panelists.
Yes, I do work with difficult coworkers.
Not me.
No, not me. So as a coach, I'm at a school site. There's about 25 teachers, and those 25 teachers have different ideas about what teaching is and how do you work with students and the belief of the potential of those students, right? And I don't agree with some of those beliefs. However, it is still my responsibility to work with that teacher, because it's not about the teacher. It is about those 24 students that teacher has. So, I was blessed enough with LAUSD to be trained in cognitive coaching. I'm still reading books on transformational coaching, right? Because as a coach, I need to work with these individuals. But all in all, in the end, when you put data in front of them, when you tell them their responsibilities as a teacher, right? In their delivery of the lessons. You're not doing this lesson just because I want you to do the lesson or the principal has asked you to do the lesson. This is the lesson. Let's work on it together. What are some challenges you might have? What is the preparation you need to make this delivery of the lesson meet the target? Because if you're not prepared, you're not going to meet the target. And so now you've wasted an hour of instruction for these children in front of you. An hour one day for math times 5 days times 185 days. You're not going to teach under my guidance for 185 days. You're going to do something, right? So there's opportunities that sometimes open up, like after school, in the morning. Do you need me to stay after school? So I have a tendency of going a little bit above and beyond my job, where I do meet on a Sunday, sometimes with teachers. I do stay after school to help teachers move furniture, right? I do different things that sometimes that's not what my job entails, but I know that I'm not doing it because I'm in love with the teacher, right? I'm doing it because I have to do that work because the teacher needs to do the work to meet the needs of the students. So it is an everyday challenge, trust me. I don't have all the answers. There are still teachers that are challenging to me, right? But sometimes there's good days where the teacher does listen to Nora. And so I'm like, amen, Lord, thank you for guiding me, right? And opening that pathway. So it's an day-to-day basis work when I'm working with my colleagues.
Thank you, Nora. I'll pass it over to Brenda.
All right, we have a few questions here. One of them says, and anyone on the panel can answer, but it says, how should I approach teachers who are obviously overwhelmed and the tutors' presence as a burden? We've seen that a few times. How can our tutors work with it?
Anyone want to communicate?
They are overwhelmed, okay? So the teachers are overwhelmed, and I mentioned before, the school system is a highly complex environment for everyone involved, I think. So I think sometimes with all best intentions, the tutor goes to the teacher to ask, what should I be doing? How can I help you? I'm here. I think Study Smart does do a great job of coaching you all about, at minimum, kind of how to walk through the classroom, ask questions, start building rapport. But build rapport with your teacher also, and that's kind of what I was saying before, because you don't want to be another person asking them for something extra. And I know it's in best intention because you want to help the teacher, but sometimes you have to take initiative too of, okay, this is the textbook they're teaching from. These are the lesson plans. This is what the student is going to be tested on at the end of this quarter. These are the other co-teachers that are also, teaching the same course. This is the counselor that's overseeing me while I'm there. So some of it's just interpersonal rapport with other professionals there, so you don't feel like you're coming in and asking more questions. The other real practical thing I would say is, in terms of taking initiative, it's also not, there's a careful balance of if you don't agree with something maybe the teacher's saying or doing, you have folks on your Study Smart team or maybe your daily supervisor at the school share some of those concerns. But sometimes in the classroom, going directly to the teacher right off the bat might not be the most effective, because sometimes there's a lot of things going on outside of that classroom that you might not be aware of it. So kind of having that dialogue with other folks first can kind of set up for a more productive conversation if you're having kind of a disagreement or a misalignment about how things are being instructed.
Wonderful, thank you. And before I hand it over to Ryan for us to move on, can we get one more round of applause for the panel?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, our panelists. That was fantastic. We are going to take a 5-minute break. During that break, if you have not grabbed a ticket for which table to be at for our table section, please do so. That's in the back right there. Or we're going to take a quick 5-minute break, not as long as everyone, and I will see you very soon.